Shed talk, shack chat, noble nice. I said shed talk, shack chat, noble nice. I said shed talk, shack chat, noble nice. I said shed talk, shack chat,
Hello,
noble
friends.
nice.
Someone just came to the window and asked if we sell firewood. No, I said, no, not really. I didn't even know people in the city made fires, honestly. But, so I was just, this is a topic that I've been thinking about, and I wanted to, I gotta unbutton my pants because I'm, my weight gain challenge is going, I think, pretty decently, and I can't sit comfortably anymore. Um, so I want to talk about anger today, and it might seem like sort of a strange venue for that, but honestly, in my judgment, it's more strange that we don't talk about it in a healthy way very often. And I don't know. I also kind of, I guess, I believe I'm a pretty good person to talk about anger in one sense, at least in a one sense that I have. Maybe it's a projection of myself, but I think that a lot of people see me as being a very like sort of low energy, calm type person, and have a like I speak. I have a what's the word? Low, not low. Jeez. I'm soft spoken. I'm pretty soft spoken, anyways, and make jokes and things like that. And so I think that people who just meet me once and I'm in a good mood or am around me a limited a bit might think I'm like that's not something that I deal with. So it's not really about me, but it's more to also recognize there's a lot of people who I think that um, people might have a hard time understanding that they might deal with, the same range of emotions that everybody does. Um, so if I am a placeholder for some of those ideas, then that's fine. I'm happy to be that. Um, So anger, I think, is a really interesting thing, and I've been studying it a lot, and also trying to do a lot of work on my own and uh, learning healthy ways to deal with it and to express it in safe and healthy ways. Um, it's something that I think a lot of us learn as children is sort of is a bad, quotes, a bad emotion or one to be um, marginalized or to be hidden or so we there's a lot of different like sort of coping mechanisms. Like we either can like go up into our heads and like intellectualize it, like, oh, I understand now why I'm getting angry in this situation, and so I'm okay. Or people tend to just sort of suppress it and just be like, no, I'm not angry right now, I'm not going to deal with this. And then at least my belief, my experience is how it feels is that it gets stored up throughout my body. I don't think I'm alone there, but I'm going to try to talk about my own experience as much as possible. And that can lead to some really unhealthy stuff. In my experience, it's been that like I have found that as a result of trying to be calm in a lot of situations that I'm actually kind of angry about, that when something triggers me, sometimes I will sort of rage out in ways that lash out at someone verbally or even physically at certain times in my life. Nothing super serious, but still things that I don't ways that I don't want to be acting. And that comes sort of like that's like it's like almost a pre-cognitive thing. Like it's like a fight or flight response. In this case, obviously fight. Um, and and then I'll just say one more thing is there's like a sort of like a spiritual bypassing method that I've seen a lot, and I've also kind of experienced was sort of being in that sense of anger being like a lower emotion or something. Like, yeah, I don't deal with that anymore. And you see people that are in sort of like they're like, I meditate so I don't have to feel anger, or like they're in these like spiritual contexts, spiritual, quote unquote. It's a weird word. Like, I don't deal with that. And that's another choice, but my personal experience is that it's not something that can be just sort of transcended or ignored or intellectualized to a place uh, that's actually effective. It's sort of like treating a symptom as opposed to a system. And so I've realized this for a long time in myself, and also realized that the anger that I have helps mask other things. And for me, it's usually grief. When I do an exercise of releasing anger, it usually leads to tears, and I realize that it's a much deeper process that's sort of being masked by this. So I've been in my life trying to do regularly things that are going to help me in a safe way, that doesn't hurt me or anyone else. Release some of that stored up anger, because I've, for a lot in my life, been in situations that I was very angry about and didn't allow myself to be angry and to just express it safely, or to be encouraged to do so, because most of us aren't trained or socialized or conditioned to, hold people going through intense emotions in a supportive way, because we're so afraid of it in ourselves. So sort of how I feel about it. Anyway, so there's an author named John Lee, and I've gotten a whole lot out of a few books of his. He writes very beautifully and vulnerably, is that a word? And eloquently especially about the experience of being like a younger man, or in 20s or 30s, or late teens, and finding oneself really lost and confused, which I definitely have experienced a lot of, and I have seen that I'm very much not alone. And so his work has been really, really helpful for me. And one exercise that I got from, he also has a book that's all about anger, which I actually have a copy of with me because I'm working my way through it. It's called Facing the Fire, Experiencing and Expressing Anger Appropriately, John Lee. And some of the things I've said are very related or kind of right out of that book, and yet they're also my own experience simultaneously. So I'm not trying to steal his work, but it's reinforced what I've noticed as well, and it's really helpful that when I find things like that. So anyway, so really helpful exercise that I found that can be done pretty much any time, although, I know for me there have been certain times when I haven't felt really like it was a fitting time to do this. But so if you feel yourself angry, or you can do this when you're not feeling angry, which I find is also really effective, is you grab something like a towel or a sweatshirt. I have a sweatshirt here. I'm not going to use it because it's not mine, even though I've done this a lot and it hasn't damaged anything. What you do is you take the towel or the sweatshirt, and while you're thinking about not really thinking about it, just being angry, you twist that sweatshirt or towel as hard as you can, and you can twist that thing as hard as you possibly can, and it will not budge. But while you're doing it, you make sure and keep breathing the whole time, because that keeps the energy moving. And you also think about whatever knots of anger are in your body, wherever they're stored up, wherever this is expressing itself from. Picture those knots transferring through your hands into that thing, and just focus on that. And I found it to be a really valuable exercise in two ways. One is sort of like a symptomatic, like, oh, this is coming up now and I need to deal with this. And another is as of like like in the same way that like a tonic works or something. I don't know how to describe this, but like in the time of, like, I picture myself as having a certain amount of stored up anger within my body, and to do this is to like consistently release some. So I'll do it when I'm not feeling particularly angry, and it will do one of two things. One, it'll help me get in touch with the anger that's just sort of stored up and help me move some of it. And like I said before, the other thing that often happens is that I move through that into a deeper level of grief or something else that I'm have stored up, and move that. So I have found it to be like in the moment and in a longer term to be a very healing exercise. I'll just share one quick story. I was leading a trip for adolescents out west, and we were all circling up before dinner time, and one of the participants, who was very strong, very like well muscled, and he was really into martial arts, and he was very proud of his work in martial arts, and it was his some of the other kids found that very inspiring, and they it was one way that he really succeeded in connecting with people, was his passion for it. And so he said he wanted to show us some moves, and would someone be okay? And I said, yeah, I would be happy if you wanted to show me some moves. And I thought he was just gonna sort of slow motion like demonstrate some things. So I walked towards him, and he immediately like did this and this, and like before I knew it, I was thrown on the ground really hard on my back. And for myself, my sort of, for non-physical or lower level like emotional traumas, my from fight, flight, or freeze, my go-to is definitely freeze. Like I definitely like sort of can ball up and just shut down. But for like succinct physical traumas like tickling, which is something that if you're not ticklish, you don't understand how scary that is, to be really tickled hard, or to be like hurt physically, like hit or something. My response is fight, and it's like I said before, it's like precognitive. It's like if someone tickles me, I gently warn people. I say, please don't tickle me, because I might punch or kick you before I know that I've done it, and it's a survival mechanism, because when you're being tickled really hard, you can't breathe, and it's terrifying. But so at other times in my life, when someone has like come up and hurt me and I haven't expected it, my initial reaction is definitely fight. And luckily I have the wherewithal to realize that normally that's not what I actually want to be doing, so I haven't acted on it most times. And I say most times as if I'm hiding some like awful thing, but I really don't think I've ever hurt anybody really badly, or even that badly. Whatever. And so anyway, so in this moment when he dropped me on the ground, I actually felt very physically threatened. I said, wow, this is, and my system, before my brain even caught up, was like, I want to beat this person up. I need to fight back. But luckily I had the wherewithal to realize, like, A, I don't really want to hurt them, and B, which is another part of me at least, didn't want to hurt them, and then B, like, this is the absolute wrong context to be in a fight. I'm a leader in this situation. I'm a role model and whatever. So I said, all right, I need a moment. And then I was really grateful because I knew this exercise. So I walked away from the group while they were doing their thing. I went in the bushes. I grabbed my shirt and I did this. And I channeled all the anger I had towards him and this situation into the thing. And then when I went back, and I did that until I felt complete, and then I walked back to the group, and I took him aside, and I said, and I just talked with him, and I talked with him calmly, and talked with him about, people's physical boundaries, and the danger of attacking someone who's not ready for it, and stuff like that, and the agreement that I thought I was making by volunteering and stuff like that. So, I went through my life, most of my life, until like a year or two ago, and there was times when I would get so angry, and of course, most of the time I was really just getting angry with myself. And when I was angry with myself, I would get really either shut down, or I would want to express it in some way, but I was terrified of how to do so, because I'm like, I know from my experience, I know from being embodied, that I'm much stronger than I appear, and that this body, although I don't use it as such, could be like a dangerous weapon, and I don't want that to be how I'm using it. And so I found myself in countless situations where I was so angry and I had no idea what to do with it, and I would just be absolutely miserable. Or if I was around someone else, I would clam up and just just continue to berate myself because I was so angry at myself for being angry, and it was just like like a positive feedback loop. And I have been able to use this exercise as well as, I mean, there's a lot of other ones. The beauty of this one is that it's not really potentially destructive. If you go and like throw rocks or hit a stick on the ground or like a tennis racket on a mattress, there's a lot of things you can do to like express anger, and they can be done in healthy ways, but a lot of them are not like readily available. You can't, you're not always going to have a tennis racket with you and you can safely do this. But this is an exercise that I found is effective and also grounded. I don't feel like I'm like some wild animal, which is okay to be sometimes, of course, but there's a contained aspect of it that I find really helpful, and that I can do it quickly. I mean, I've done it a lot of times. I don't even go and find a towel. But if in a moment I'm realizing that something that just happened pissed me off, or like I'm getting heated or something, I mean, I can do it without, and nobody would ever even know. I'm trying to like subtly demonstrate this here. But I mean, I'll grab the edge of something, or like the leg on my chair, or even like if I've got nothing else, like the hem of my pants, just something that I could get a grip on. And I'll just breathe, and I'll squeeze that thing as hard as I can, and I'll think, okay, I'm moving this anger because I'm not in a situation where I want to lash out at somebody. I'm not in a situation where I want to fight somebody. I'm not in a situation, but I'm realizing I'm angrier than I'm comfortable with, and I want to honor that anger. It's a real thing. It's here, and if I react in this moment, it's going to be a reaction of probably emotional, verbal, physical violence. Even if it's, violence is a strong word, but even if it's just a tiny shred. Luckily, another part of me is on board, knows that I don't want to do that. Okay, so what's my other option? I used to not really know. Fight, flight, or freeze. I could freeze, fine. But when I'm freezing, I'm not actually doing healthy movement of energy. When I run away, I'm just avoiding the problem to be resurfaced again. That's fine. And I don't want to fight because it's just, I don't want to hurt somebody. I don't want to hurt myself. It's just not the role that I want to play. Like, I think healthy fighting in an agreed upon setting, great. If you're a martial arts person or a boxer or something like that, like I'm all for it. But outside of a context where two people are agreeing to and like feeling in integrity about doing it, I don't want to be a part of that as much as I can avoid. And so I'll just do that. I'll grab whatever's in place, give myself a second, because I realize what I want to do is respond and not just react. The reaction is going to be violent. The response is going to be from a more measured and a more honored place. And I say honored as in like I've honored myself in my process. If I do this, really honor that anger and let it feel, let myself feel it and let it move through me into whatever object I've chosen. Sorry, whatever object that is. That's not entirely fair maybe, but this is the best I know for right now. Then what happens is I get regulated. I can return to the situation from a more rational place. And this doesn't take long. That's the beauty of it. I don't have to stew about it. I don't have to go, bitch to my friends about this and this. I don't have to be a victim. I don't have to do any of this stuff. Just let the anger express. Wow. Okay. And when I'm ready, and I can usually tell, I can re-enter the situation and even share with the person, hey, I just got really triggered by this, or I just got really pissed off at when this thing happened. I'm fine now, or like, I'm ready to re-enter without having that charge or whatever it is. So I I hope this, I hope at least one person who's watching this will feel some resonance and be inspired to take this journey into dealing with anger. Obviously, this is like tip of an iceberg, and it's going to look like a different iceberg for every person. But I have learned a whole lot from my own experience and learning to express, my own anger in healthy ways. And I hope that I hope for everyone. I wish that we all learned safe ways to hold each other, to express anger. Even as kids, there's really good ways for like exercises you can do with children to like just be able to say to them, like, it's okay to be angry. Anger is a thing that we all experience. Here's a healthy way that we can express it without hurting anybody else, without hurting each other. Be involved with that process. Show them that these parts which are hard for us to deal with because we don't want to face them, we don't want to face our own versions, that there are ways that we can help someone else be supported in that. And so that, if you're raising a kid, so that they don't grow up and have a whole storage of anger, which is going to rage out in inopportune ways, or just, slowly eat them away from the inside. I mean, I think I've walked around like that for a lot of my life. I'm still working on getting, that storage unit cleared out, and every single time it comes up, I have new tools, and I try to do my best, and I've had some really great successes, and I'm super duper proud of that, because in the past I had no idea what to do, and the ways that I dealt with it were so difficult for me to deal with, and really difficult for people around me. So that's what I guess that's what episode 7's gonna be mostly about, and we'll have a song as well. And yeah, I mean, this is it's tricky territory, but you know what? Like, it's okay to have these conversations, is what I believe, and I think it's like not having them, in my judgment, is akin to marginalizing the anger. I mean, that's like the metaphor for me. If we stuff it down, store it in our body somewhere, it's only eating away at us. If we don't allow these things to be seen and heard in healthy ways, which I'm doing my best to try to represent, and I hope I'm doing a good job. I can hear a judgment in my head saying, man, in that middle part, you really made yourself look like you were really dangerous, or you've done something terrible. I've acted in ways that I'm really, really not proud of, and that have been really, in my judgment, hurtful towards myself and other people. The reason I was pausing is because, like, no, I've never broken somebody's neck. I've never, like, beat somebody up really bad. I've never done anything like that. But honestly, I mean, sometimes expressing it in other ways, I think, is just as damaging emotionally and stuff. And I'm okay admitting that I've done, I've acted in ways that were really difficult, and I feel incredibly. I have a lot of sadness about that, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know any better, and my survival mechanisms did not serve in ways that were helpful, given the situation, and given the relationship with myself and with others. And I mean, I'm really committed to trying to heal that, and trying to work with it in new ways, so that I don't do that anymore, because it's not the person that I'm wanting to be. And I'm finally feeling like I'm at a point in my life, and I've been given, these gifts of being in spaces where I've been modeled, and I've been able to be part of dealing with this stuff in healthy ways, and talking about it, and expressing it, and watching other people do it, and having people encourage me to do the same. And it's been really important for me, and I just wanted to share that. So anyways, thanks everybody, and yeah, good night. Every day I don't wanna get up, get out of my bed. Every night I want to play out. Every night I want to do. But tonight I want to stay and be here with you. To be with you. Every day I lean on a lamppost, I'm wasting my time. Every night I lay on a pillow, I'm resting my mind. Every morning brings a new day. Every night that day is through. And tonight I just wanna stay